Welcome to this deep dive. The passing of Pope Francis back on April 21st, 2025, well, it set the stage for a really pivotal moment for the Catholic Church, the upcoming conclave.
Absolutely. It's huge, isn't it? The election of the next pope has massive implications, not just for Catholics, but, globally.
Exactly. And today we're going to zoom in on one particular figure whose name comes up a lot in these kinds of discussions, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, the former Secretary of State.
A very central figure. Our mission today, if you like, is to kind of unpack his journey, his role inside the Vatican.
And maybe shed some light on the conclave process itself along the way. So let's start at the beginning. Pietro Parolin, born 1955, Chiavan, northern Italy.
Right, from a devout Catholic family. His father, Luigi, managed a hardware store. His mother, Ada, was an elementary school teacher. He had a sister and a brother, too.
But tragedy struck quite early in his life, didn't it?
Yes, sadly. His father died in a car accident when Pietro was just 10 years old, so his mother raised the three children on her own. That must have been incredibly difficult.
I can only imagine. It must shape you, an experience like that. And he entered the seminary pretty young, at 14.
He did, yeah. And this was during the late 1960s, a time of, well, significant social turbulence, you could say.
He was ordained a priest in 1980, but then instead of going straight into parish work, he pursued more studies.
That's right. He went for graduate studies in canon law at the Pontifical Gregorian University and then diplomacy at the Pontifical Ecclesiastical Academy.
Okay, so diplomacy was clearly on the cards early on.
Seems like it. That academy is, well, it's the training ground for the Holy See's diplomatic service, which he formally entered in 1986. He was 31 then.
And his first postings, where did they take him?
First stop was Nigeria.
Yeah.
He spent 3 years there. That must have been quite the introduction to interreligious dynamics, especially Christian-Muslim relations.
Very relevant experience. And after Nigeria.
Mexico, from 1989 to 1992. And this was a really significant posting.
Why is that? What happened in Mexico?
Well, he played a key role, a really instrumental role, in achieving legal recognition for the Catholic Church there in 1992.
Wow, okay. After how long?
After 130 years of, let's say, complicated and often strained relations, it allowed the establishment of full diplomatic ties between the Holy See and Mexico. A huge shift.
So he helped Mexico sort of move away from its quite strong secular, even anti-clerical constitutional stance.
Exactly. A major diplomatic achievement, especially relatively early in his career. After that, he was back in Rome for a while.
Doing what there?
He was the country director for Spain, Andorra, Italy, and San Marino. Then, around 2000, he started working with Bishop Attilio Nicora on implementing the revisions to the Lateran Concordat, the one from 1984, particularly focusing on the Italian military ordinariate. So complex legal and diplomatic stuff, even before the big Vatican roles.
Right. Which brings us neatly to his work actually in the Vatican City. In 2002, he becomes Under-Secretary of State for Relations with States. That sounds important.
It is. It's often described as the Holy See's Deputy Foreign Minister, a position with considerable influence. He held it until 2009.
7 years. What were some of the key things he worked on then?
Well, strengthening ties with Vietnam was a big one. Laying groundwork for, potential improvements in religious freedom there. And China, of course.
Ah, yes, China. Always a complex relationship for the Vatican.
Indeed. He helped to reestablish direct contact with Beijing around 2005 and managed the delicate relations leading up to the 2008 Beijing Olympics. He even visited China twice during that time.
That must have been seen as a significant step.
It really was a turning point, many called it. And during this period, he gained this reputation, didn't he? Well-connected, certainly, but also humble, modest.
He was also involved in those long-running negotiations with Israel, right, over the fundamental agreement.
Yes, trying to advance talks on tax and property rights for the church based on the 1993 agreement, though, as you know, that specific agreement still remains unsigned.
And his work wasn't just bilateral negotiations, was it? He was involved in broader international issues.
Oh, definitely. He was personally involved in advocating for the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, speaking at the International Atomic Energy Agency about it.
And didn't he play a role in that incident with the British sailors captured by Iran?
He did, yes, back in 2007. Reportedly worked very closely, behind the scenes mostly, with the British Embassy to the Holy See to help secure their release.
Also involved in trying to revive dialogue between Israelis and Palestinians.
Actively so. Plus, showing interest in combating human trafficking, promoting religious freedom generally, and environmental protection, too.
He spoke at the UN about climate change back in 2007.
He did. He emphasized the responsibility to protect the planet. It shows the breadth of issues the Vatican engages with. His time as undersecretary also saw efforts in places like East Timor, resolving border issues between Ecuador and Peru, pushing for a ban on cluster bombs. It was a busy period.
Sounds incredibly busy. Then, in 2009, a shift. He's appointed Apostolic Nuncio, essentially the Pope's ambassador to Venezuela.
Yes, under Pope Benedict XVI. And that was, well, a challenging post. Hugo Chavez was president, and tensions between his government and the Venezuelan bishops were quite high.
Chavez even ordered a review of ties with the Holy See at one point, didn't he?
In 2010, yes. Many credit Parolin's diplomatic skill during those years, 2009 to 2013, with actually preventing relations from deteriorating even further right up until Chavez passed away.
Quite the diplomatic tightrope walk. And then the big one, August 2013.
Pope Francis appoints him Vatican Secretary of State, taking over from Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone. He took office in October that year.
And he was notably young for the role, wasn't he?
The youngest since Eugenio Pacelli, who later became Pope Pius XII back in 1929. Parolin was 58, a significant appointment.
He must have felt the weight of that trust from Pope Francis.
He expressed exactly that, gratitude, commitment. And soon after, Francis made him his first cardinal, February 2014, later raised to cardinal bishop in 2018. He also became a core member of Francis's advisory group, the Council of Cardinal Advisors.
So right at the center of things. And during his time as Secretary of State, the Vatican played that key role in the Cuba-U.S. thaw, right?
A huge diplomatic moment. The Holy See was credited with facilitating things, and Parolin himself apparently moderated a key meeting in October 2014.
But his tenure wasn't without controversy or difficult moments. I remember his comments after the marriage equality referendum in Ireland in 2015.
Yes, calling it a defeat for humanity. That certainly drew a lot of attention and varied reactions.
And then there's the whole ongoing situation with China, the deal on appointing bishops. He's seen as the main architect of that, isn't he?
He is, yes, and it's been highly controversial, facing criticism from various quarters. His comment in 2020, responding to questions about persecution, but what persecution, that also became widely discussed.
Definitely a complex legacy there. He's also spoken about other issues, like the need for dialogue with the German bishops on blessings for same-sex unions.
Right, emphasizing that such moves need to involve the universal church, not just local churches acting alone. He's also engaged with the Taliban post-withdrawal from Afghanistan, trying to discourage reprisals.
And on Ukraine.
He issued a statement condemning the 2022 invasion, called for negotiation, and later stated that supplying weapons to Ukraine for self-defense could be morally legitimate under certain conditions.
More recently, promoting Armenia-Azerbaijan peace talks, reading Pope Francis's climate statement at COP28 when the Pope couldn't attend.
And commenting on the conflict in Gaza in 2024, stressing that Israel's self-defense must be proportional given the high number of civilian deaths. He was also the one, just this February 2025, rejecting rumors about Pope Francis potentially resigning before his passing.
It's an incredibly broad range of activities, and he's fluent in quite a few languages too, I believe.
Yes, Venetian, Italian, English, French, Spanish, a vital skill set for that job. And it's worth noting, he has in the past expressed openness to discussing clerical celibacy, noting it's a discipline, not dogma.
Interesting point. Okay, let's talk a bit more about the role itself, Secretary of State, and then the conclave process. This office, it's become hugely important.
Massively so. It's evolved over centuries, really becoming the most powerful office in the Curia after the role of the cardinal nephew was abolished way back in 1692. The secretary heads the Secretariat of State, handling all the political and diplomatic functions.
Appointed by the Pope, must be a cardinal, and the term ends when the Pope dies or resigns.
Precisely. And during the sede vacante, this period between popes, the former Secretary Parolin in this case, becomes part of a temporary commission overseeing some Vatican functions.
So, with Pope Francis's death on April 21st, Cardinal Parolin's term officially ended. And now, heading into the conclave, his name is definitely one of the papabili, the potential candidates.
Very much so. His vast diplomatic experience, his long service at the heart of the Vatican, these are seen as major assets.
But as we've touched on, there are also areas of scrutiny, right?
Yes. Questions have been raised about financial matters within the Secretariat during his tenure, and, of course, the ongoing debate and criticism surrounding the China deal. These are factors the cardinal electors will undoubtedly consider.
So, the conclave itself, remind us how that works.
All the cardinals under the age of 80 gather incommunicado in the Sistine Chapel. They vote by secret ballot.
And they need a specific majority.
Yes, a 2/3 majority is required to elect a new pope. They keep voting, usually multiple times a day, until someone reaches that threshold and accepts the election.
How long does it usually take?
It's really unpredictable. Some conclaves have been over in just a couple of days. Others have taken weeks. There's no set timetable. It just continues until they have a pope.
Okay, so wrapping things up. Cardinal Parolin clearly brings decades of high-level diplomatic and administrative experience within the Vatican to the table.
Unquestionably. A long career, deeply involved in major global issues and internal church governance. His skills are well known.
But there are also complexities, differing viewpoints on his leadership, particularly regarding finances and the China agreement.
Exactly. So he represents a potential path focused on experience and diplomacy, but also carries specific points of debate that the cardinals will weigh. It highlights the serious nature of the decision they face.
Absolutely. The upcoming conclave is a moment of immense significance, choosing the direction for the Church in, well, a very complicated world.
Indeed it is. The cardinals have a weighty responsibility.
And so we leave you, our listener, with a final thought to consider. Given everything we've discussed about Cardinal Parolin's background, his strengths, the criticisms, what qualities do you think are the most crucial for the next leader of the Catholic Church as they navigate the challenges and opportunities of our current global landscape? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to think about.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.